Hi, this is Dr. Beach. In my last Insights video, Stalkers Part 3, I covered the intimacy-seeking stalker, the second most common type of stalker, which comprises approximately 1/3 of all stalkers. In this episode, I will be covering a less common type of stalker, the incompetent stalker, which accounts for approximately 15% of all stalkers, and will be further exploring this group's primary motivation, risks, and behaviors. Claire Waxman first caught the eye of radio and television producer Elliot Fogel in 1991, while the two were attending St. Albans College. Claire was aware of Elliot following her around campus, hiding behind bushes, always watching and waiting for her. But as a young girl in her late teens, Claire simply chalked this up to Elliot having a crush on her. And at the time, she didn't know what stalking was. And so she did what many of us would do in these circumstances. She simply tried to ignore Elliot and hoped that he'd go away. And 2 years later, when they left college, Claire heard nothing further from Elliot. But in 2003, 10 years later, Elliot resurfaced, and he began to show up at Claire's workplace. He pushed her work colleagues for her personal information. And at the same time, Claire received anonymous cards, emails, and flowers. Uncertain of the identity of these gestures, Claire reviewed work video footage, and she wasn't surprised to confirm Elliot's identity, as she still recalled how strangely he behaved while they were in college. He repeatedly visited her work and spent countless hours following her. He would run by her parents' home on a quiet cul-de-sac around holiday periods, as he knew she would be there. He made hundreds of late-night phone calls to Claire. He broke into her car. He pretended to be a prospective parent at her child's nursery. And he researched Claire Waxman 40,000 times on Google over a 1-year period. The common characteristics of incompetent stalkers include that on average, they tend to be loners, more socially awkward, and have less emotional intelligence. And compared to the intimacy-seeking stalker group that we talked about in our last episode, that group, by nature of the mental health symptoms they were experiencing, they were deprived of the ability to understand that the love they felt wasn't reciprocated. In the case of incompetent stalkers, they recognize that the love is not reciprocated, but they persist nevertheless. And oftentimes they persist for many years at a time, like in Claire's case. And even when they give up one particular victim, it's common that they'll move on to another victim. And that's why incompetent stalkers are notorious for sequentially stalking. Now, one of the primary motivations of the incompetent stalker is entitlement. And by that I mean that the incompetent stalker feels entitled to a relationship, even when the love isn't reciprocated. And it's very important to recognize entitlement and the level of entitlement, because a high level of entitlement is one of the important risk factors for violence among stalkers. One of the important risk management strategies in stalking is that a team approach is almost always necessary. And a stalking management team can have many players, including the stalking victim, the stalker's family, mental health professionals, local police officers, and local prosecutors. Claire married in 2004, and when she returned from her honeymoon, she found a package on her doorstep. She recognized Elliot's handwriting immediately, and when she opened the package, there was an answering machine. She wasn't sure what was behind the answering machine, but she'd had enough, so she contacted the police. The police issued a harassment order, but the endless phone calls and letters continued. Over 12 years, Claire fought through the courts to see her tormentor brought to justice. Elliot was prosecuted a total of 5 times, received 3 jail sentences, a lifetime restraining order, and a community order. After breaching the restraining order, Elliot was incarcerated for another 3.5 years. He was described by the court as a compulsive, obsessive stalker. Claire suffered years of torment. The devastating toll of Elliot's 12-year obsession left her vulnerable, exhausted, and caused her considerable anxiety and emotional distress. And that emotional distress, over time, deeply impacted her physical health, causing her insomnia, weight loss, and to suffer a miscarriage. And yet, through it all, Claire fought with determination in the courts, and she campaigned for increased awareness and tougher stalker laws to protect others in similar situations. Thank you for watching part 4 of the Stalkers series. Please join me for the next episode where we'll be covering a case example on the resentful stalker.